online. So, the funny thing about love is we seldom express it enough. We often take for granted the love of family. After all, they're always there for us, right? You can count on them, come hell or high water, in one form or fashion, you go through it with them, celebrating each other's achievements, sympathizing during a setback. They're just a phone call away, willing to listen with understanding and support. You're always there for them, and rest assured, they are there for you. Growing up, we were a family of 6, and I'm here to tell you, nothing lasts forever. My brother was the youngest in the family. I wouldn't want that job, especially with an older brother. My sisters were older than us. Bros stick together, and sisters, well, they were off in their own world growing up. We grew up in California, 30 miles south of San Francisco, Redwood City. Climate best by government test, read the sign that hung over Broadway Street. No real seasons to speak of other than summer and not so summer. Lots of time to play and get in trouble. That's my segue into a few stories to share growing up. Now, these may seem harsh, and Rick sadly isn't here to defend himself, but he would be doing so. He's forgiven me, though. He had scars to carry, be them physical or emotional. It's just a big brother's job, right? So I have several stories, and I didn't write them out, but the first one, which kind of bears the scars, some of you may have noticed that Rick has had a broken nose, judging by his beautiful profile here. Well, I'm kind of I'm responsible for that. So we were in the backyard, and we were 7 and 8. Rick's 2 years younger than me, so we were experimenting with science. Everybody knows what a catapult is. You have therein lies the story. So you have the fulcrum, and you have a 2x10 piece of wood, and you kind of, put that in different spots, judging on how big the rock is on one end, you determine your trajectory, right? So we did a lot of experimentation to kind of get that right. And the rock kept getting bigger and bigger, and big brother, I'm picking up bigger and bigger rocks. We had a lot of rocks because my dad had the great ambition to dig a swimming pool manually, and that went on for about 3 or 4 years before it became other landscaping. So lots of rocks. So Rick's the loader, he's on this end putting that rock down, and I'm probably lifting this rock. Well, it was a heavy rock, and what can I say? You can only hold rocks so long. So I dropped it before Rick could get out of the way. And bam! So they're in broken nose. And it's like, please don't tell Mom. A lot of blood, a lot of towels. So the other one, or others, you may have seen some fish flashing by the screen here. Well, the fish that he's holding is the second fish he caught. We went later on our, 50, I think it was Rick's 50th birthday. We went on that king fishing trip, and Rick caught a nice fish. Well, the second one, the first one he caught, again, big brother to the rescue, you're reeling in the fish, get it offshore, and it's flopping about, and kind of just stops. In this case, I thought it was dead, but it was all dirty, so I unhooked it and walked down to the river to get it all clean so we could run home to the cabin. This is in the Russian River in California. Get it all clean to show off to our parents, Fish, swam away. It's like the very first fish my brother caught, he was like... So anyway, that picture somewhere along the line is his second fish that he caught. That's one of his favorite stories because, again, kind of blew it for him. Rick made the newspaper. One year, I had was an eyeglass appointment, and so my mother, one of the neighbors was going to take us all to my appointment, then we were going to go out to lunch or something, but Rick in his haste, we lived on a hill, and so Rick in his haste ran out before everybody else, and Mr. Walker, who was giving us all a ride, had left his driver door open. And so Rick, comes up, grabs the emergency brake, releases the brake. The car starts rolling, the door closes on his legs. Here's the car rolling down the hill, its legs flailing, and fortunately, our neighbor, Mr. Smith, was out mowing his lawn, and he kind of looks up and he sees this car rolling by with the kid's leg. So Mr. Smith to the rescue. He runs out, and all this is slow motion because my mom's you can imagine what a mother's doing. She's kid rolling down. So she's trips on her way out. And Rick's going down the hill. Mr. Smith opens the door, grabs Rick by one leg, and just tosses him into the juniper bushes. Saved the day. Jumps in the car, and fortunately flattened out, but it was able to stop the car and save the day. And he ended up making the paper. I don't know who called the newspaper to get that story in, but it was pretty good. So Rick really truly had 9 lives. I mean, we went to Mexico with the family. Who gets Montezuma's revenge? You tell your kid don't drink the water. Well, Rick didn't really listen as much as he should have when he was young. Got Montezuma's revenge. If you all know what that is, he spent quite some time getting over that. Couldn't really enjoy the trip. We ended up though enjoying it. Those pictures aren't in there. My mom let us rent a motorcycle, which when mother lets you rent a motorcycle in Mexico. We went like towns. We almost got lost. Anyway, it was a lot of fun. But that was back in the 60s, and it was a whole different world back then. So, but between that, motorcycle crashes, you guys might remember he got hit and broke his arm, on his motorcycle. Rick had an affinity for pyrotechnics. He was always the blow it up guy. We'd make regular journeys to Chinatown in San Francisco to get barrel bombs, cherry bombs, M80s. M80s were his favorite. That's a quarter stick of dynamite, as you may know. Never got caught for any of the things he did, but yeah, it was a fascination for him, and the fire pit that I'll allude to later here is you can't have a house without a fire pit, and we've had some great you got the cold air inversion, and so Rick would put all his prunings in the fire pit all year and pour a half gallon of gas on it, and with that inversion it's keeping all the fumes low, and boy, we'd light that thing off, and it was fire truck came about an hour later because the neighbors, what's that 30-foot fire shooting out of the middle of but that was Rick. He just loved loved the entertainment and the just that adventure and excitement that brought. So we had growing up, we had a lot of neighborhood friends. Rick had some very dear friends, but again, it was always that kind of big brother. His friends are friends, and so his very good friend Tracy, his younger brother, Tracy, even though you got the dynamics of a younger brother, older brother, younger brother, now even a younger brother. So we would quiz him. If they got it wrong, he went in the freezer. And this is a chest freezer that, the old style, they are locked. You can't get out of it. So Timmy would be like, let me out. And he ended up hitting pneumonia middle of the summer because he just didn't get enough questions right. He went in the freezer quite a few times. So not our fault. You didn't get the question right? So, and then Tracy, our house was kind of the mecca for getting in trouble. We had a really cool yard, and but we'd have sleepovers, and we'd all kind of hang out in the living room. My mom would go to work early, so she would put out all the breakfast bowls and take out all the cereal. You'd have Fruit Loops and Frosted Flakes and Cocoa Puffs and everything all laid out. So we, smorgasbord, we could just come in and fill a bowl. So Rick and I had this devious plan, and I'm sure it was Rick's idea because he was the trickster in the family. We had a rabbit, and rabbits kind of looked like Cocoa Puffs. So we filled Tracy's bowl with Cocoa Puffs.
That's pretty cool to be able to do that.
Poured milk in the bowl, and it was like, Tracy, come on, get up. We gotta hurry up and get breakfast and get on the road. Tracy, put a spoonful in. Needless to say, it all came out really quick. So, brotherly hand-me-down. So, that's just the way it works. But my brother and I really never exchanged clothes. It was always, my first car. He got my first car. There was handy up, so I got his first motorcycle. Still can't remember how his motorcycle got up here, whether he trailered it or shipped it or what, but that was the first motorcycle that I had of many here in Alaska. We had one great adventure that back when you could ride any vehicle out through the road, like 11 miles out, we kind of did it was Rick's motorcycle then. I hadn't bought it yet, so excuse the expression, but I had to ride bitch. And, but I stood up on the pegs for that whole 11 miles because, I didn't want to hold my brother like Anyway, that's another story. But yeah, we had some great adventures, and I could go on and on and on, but they're precious memories, and right up till the end. So I moved away from the Bay Area at 17 to Oregon for 3 years, and then to Alaska for 42 years. Rick remained in the Bay Area, marrying his high school sweetheart Jill, father to two beautiful twin boys, Ryan and Philip, here with us today. He led a very productive life in sheet metal fabrication. Rick cared for our mother through her decline for 6 years until her death. Following some tumultuous years, he made the decision to leave the Bay Area and head to Alaska in 2007, lock, stock, and barrel. Rick and Jill have remained friends throughout all of these years. Rick is so very well loved by many friends in the San Francisco Bay Area and has returned several times to visit, and many have ventured here to the Great Land. Rick met Molly shortly after moving here, and they've created a wonderful life together, embracing life and doing all the things Alaska has to offer. My brother was blessed to find such a good woman to share his life with for the past 16 years. I too am blessed in that regard, finding Susan to share our love together, who is sad she could not be here today. Susan wanted me to express how appreciative she was for being welcomed into our family by Rick, Molly, Grandpa Gene and Sue, and my son Nevin. We all have had such great memories of the time spent together with many of you, and with many of you too. Lots of great cabin days for many of you that have been here, joined us there. Playing games, fishing, dip netting, camping, spending time at the cabin around the fire, and so much more. My brother's move to Alaska brought a big shift to his life. He earned the title of craftsman with his newfound passion in building things with wood versus metal, renovating a dilapidated cabin built in 1953 on an acre of land in South Anchorage to the estate it is now. A room addition, greenhouse, smokehouse, sauna, patio surrounds, and of course, a fire pit made from the section of the Alaska pipeline. Molly had a big hand in that too. I mean, there's, every picture that you see there, Molly was right there just hauling bricks and hammering nails, and Rick was I should have put stock in liquid nails, because Rick couldn't just nail in a bore. He had to make sure that the greenhouse was spider free, so he probably used 12 tubes of caulk and liquid nails to, when an excavator goes to try to take that thing down, good luck. Um, we built, so we enjoyed sharing many hours on projects working together on his home and at my cabin along with Molly and my son. We built a multi-level tree house many of you enjoyed with us over 11 years of ownership here. You may have seen that picture of this is the cabin right here, and there's Rick kind of living. Yeah, pretty good at that. But you may have seen the blueprint for the cabin that kind of went up, and we have John Sandin over here to thank for that. Every bit of that greenhouse was from a demo from his mother's garage, and I think it was like $600 in Simpson ties and nails and screws. No nails, not a nail in there, screws and caulk to put that together. If you were to ask Rick's friends to speak of his character, the common thread you hear from each and every one of them is of his kindness, of his kind-heartedness, thoughtfulness, selflessness. I want to make sure I say that right. Selflessness wasn't a selfish bone in Rick's body. It really wasn't. Always willing to help. He's generally loved and people cherished having him in their lives. Always smiling and even-tempered. He was quick to deliver some great jokes and some terribly bad ones too. One of his faves that garnered a laugh by many was to say that he was a small arms dealer, digging out a tiny baby doll arm and pointing it at him. Yeah, it's called a groaner, but when Rick delivered it, it was like, so, trickster, Rickster. When we lost Linda, my wife, Nevin's mother, in 2000, Rick flew up here to Alaska immediately to be there for me. So very appreciated beyond words, as a rock to lean on during such tragically difficult time. Rick's light shined bright, and he was genuinely revered by everyone, especially me. Susan and I moved away from Alaska a year and a half ago. Our move coincided with the trip that Rick and Molly took, flying to Portland to join his boys and their significant others. They drove to Newport to help us unload the jam-packed 26-foot U-Haul we drove down the Alcan with all of our earthly belongings. Our trip unexpectedly took an extra day, which landed Rick and Molly and crew at our newly purchased 1910 farmhouse before we arrived. Having the code in the lockbox, they christened occupation of our home before we could. We arrived early afternoon the next day to welcoming open arms, fruit baskets on the table, a full refrigerator, and a crafted sign of Rick's design on a paper plate that read "Welcome Home, May 28, 2022," which is part of this slideshow as well. That still hangs in our kitchen. Our home, full of love and laughter. We appreciated everyone's help during that fabulous spring storm. You guys remember that? Raining in sheets, gale force winds. That road trip Rick and Molly did, sadly, would be the last time he'd see many of his friends. They visited up and down the California and Oregon coast. They swung back by Newport a few weeks later before their flight home for a crab feast and to share their events of their trip. I spent 5.5 weeks here prior to Christmas to witness Molly and her daughter's love and TLC in caring for Rick these past few months. It was incredible. A huge shout out to Hospice of Anchorage for their amazing support. Thank you for being here today in tribute to Rick's life, my brother, crazy fun uncle to my son, father to Rick, to Ryan and Phil, and so very special to many of you. May you rest in peace, brother, and for the rest of us, I saved one more little fun thing. You know, Rick really didn't do much on Facebook but when he go in and reply and comment, you know, he always has some crazy stuff to say and that. And everybody, you know, is always kind of has their own comment or their own take on how they see a situation. And this was one that I just had to copy because this is so Rick. I call it Rick speak, you know. he just had that. He had a gift. Yeah, I mean, I don't, you know. So in comment to whatever it was, I should have probably, you know, copied that. But his comment was, well, to be perfectly honest, in my humble opinion, of course, without offering anyone who thinks differently from my point of view, but also by looking into this matter in a different perspective and without being condemning of one's view, and by trying to make it objective, and by considering each and everyone's valid opinion, I honestly believe that I completely forgot what I was going to say. So, yeah.
Oh!
I feel the worst.
Nice.
Crispy
That's
critter!
crackle.
Yes,
That's
crispy
it.
critters on a stick! Hurry up, get your crispy critters on a stick!
Right.
Whoa.
Wow.
You can't do that anymore.
Howdy, Padre.
Yeah, this is for you, Rick.
Yeah, you can roast your cheeks really fast here and now.
Yeah. Nice. This is for you, brother.
That's pretty cool to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Right, Phil.
Absolutely.
Right on.
Love you, Dad.
Yeah.
And the wind's blowing the
It's all for you, Dad.
Malia.
a little bit that way.
Or that's Mariana.
Grab one more.
Smile. There you are. Sweet.